Have you noticed that work is starting to feel strange in a new way? Not just busy, not just demanding, but like there's no natural stopping point anymore. Because now, with AI built into everything, a lot of employees are not just being measured by outcomes, they're being measured by activity, by responsiveness, by volume, by how much they produce, by how many prompts they run, by how many tokens they use, by how much they seem to be using the tools. And suddenly, what was supposed to make work smarter starts making people feel like they can never stop. That's what we're talking about today. Today's episode is about the AI burnout trap and the 4 non-negotiable boundaries you need to protect your energy in an AI always-on environment. AI is supposed to help people work better, but in some workplaces, especially in tech and fast-moving environments, AI is becoming one more system that quietly pressures people to stay available, stay productive, stay measurable, and stay on. And when that happens, the real danger is not just overwork. It's the feeling that you are never doing enough, because the machine can always do more, and the system can always track more. And that's exactly what we're unpacking in today's episode. Let's dive in. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Work Chat, where we help you navigate the modern workplace with more clarity, confidence, and influence. And today we're talking about something that I think more people are feeling, but not enough people are saying out loud. Just because AI makes it possible to work faster does not mean you should be expected to work endlessly. That is a very important difference, because one of the biggest risks in an AI-heavy workplace is that productivity stops being treated as a tool and starts becoming a constant performance signal. If your company can see how much output you create, how often you use internal AI tools, how many drafts you produce, how many tasks you complete, or how many tokens you use, it can create a silent pressure that says, keep going, even if no one says it directly, even if no one officially tells you to work longer hours, even if your boss never uses those exact words. You start to feel it anyway. You start thinking, if this is being tracked, I should probably keep producing. If everyone else is using AI to move faster, I can't be the one slowing down. If I stop now, will it look like I'm doing less? And that is where the burnout trap begins. Because AI changes the psychology of work. In the past, there were more natural friction points. You had to pause, you had to think, you had to draft, you had to wait. There were limits built into the process. But AI removes a lot of that friction. Now you can brainstorm faster, write faster, analyze faster, summarize faster, and respond faster, often with multiple AI agents handling different tasks at the same time. That sounds like progress, and in many ways it is. But here's the problem. When companies embrace AI without healthy boundaries, speed becomes expectation, and expectation becomes pressure, and pressure becomes exhaustion. So let's talk about the 4 non-negotiable boundaries that matter most if you want to protect your energy in an AI always-on environment. Boundary number 1, do not let measurable output become the measure of your worth. This is the first trap. When companies can track more data, employees often start internalizing that data. If they can see how much you produce, you may start believing that your value is tied to how much visible output you create. How many prompts, how many revisions, how many summaries, how many deliverables, how much usage, how much activity. But measurable output is not the same as meaningful contribution. And that distinction matters, because in knowledge work, some of your most important value comes from judgment, timing, prioritization, relationship management, decision quality, and knowing what not to do. Those things do not always show up as token counts or AI activity logs. If you're not careful, you can start performing productivity instead of creating value. You can start optimizing for what looks measurable instead of what is actually useful. So one of the boundaries you need is mental before it is operational. You need to remind yourself, just because something can be tracked does not mean it is the best measure of my contribution. That mindset protects you from tying your identity to a dashboard. Boundary number 2. Do not let AI erase your stopping cues. This one is huge. A lot of burnout happens because AI removes the normal moments where people would naturally stop. You finish one draft, and AI can instantly help with the next. You clear one task, and 10 more become possible. You send one summary, and now you can immediately generate 3 more. There is always one more prompt, one more revision, one more analysis, one more quick thing. And because the work keeps flowing, your brain stops getting the signals that the workday should end. That is dangerous, because human energy still has limits, even if digital tools do not. So you need deliberate stopping cues. That might mean setting a hard end time for AI-heavy work. It might mean deciding that after a certain hour, you do not open drafting tools, respond to Slack, or start just one more task. It might mean batching your AI work into specific windows instead of keeping the tools open all day. The point is that if technology removes the stopping point, you have to create one yourself. Otherwise, the workday becomes a blur with no real edge, and that is one of the fastest ways to burn out. Boundary number 3, do not confuse responsiveness with commitment. In AI-driven environments, speed starts to become cultural. People respond faster, draft faster, turn things around faster. Expectations quietly shift. And when that happens, a lot of employees start equating immediate responsiveness with being a good employee. If I answer quickly, I look engaged. If I turn it around tonight, I look committed. If I keep the momentum going, I look valuable. But constant responsiveness is not the same as sustainable performance. In fact, when people are always reachable, always reacting, and always available, the quality of their thinking usually gets worse. They become more efficient, but less intentional, more active, but less strategic. So, a non-negotiable boundary is deciding that not every message deserves immediate access to your attention. You do not have to prove commitment by being perpetually available. You do not have to answer every request the moment it appears. You do not have to match the speed of the machine to prove your value as a human. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is slow the pace down enough to think clearly again. The 4th boundary is the most important of all. Do not let the company's anxiety become your nervous system. This is the deepest layer of the problem. A lot of companies are anxious right now. They want to move faster, compete harder, adopt AI quickly, prove they are not falling behind, show efficiency, show innovation, show output. That anxiety trickles down, and when employees are surrounded by dashboards, metrics, usage expectations, and quiet signals that more is always possible, they start carrying the company's urgency in their own body. They feel guilty resting. They feel behind when they pause. They feel nervous when they are not visibly producing. They feel like they should always be doing more because the tools make more possible. But just because the company is anxious does not mean your nervous system has to absorb that anxiety. That is a boundary, and it may be the most important one you build. Because if you do not separate your humanity from the company's operating pressure, work will start colonizing your mind. You will sit down to rest and still feel like you should be generating something. You will finish enough work and still feel like it was not enough. You will start living in a permanent state of low-grade tension. That is not ambition. That is erosion. So what do we do with all of this? We start by telling the truth. AI can absolutely make work better. It can reduce busy work. It can increase speed. It can help employees do higher quality work with less friction. But without boundaries, AI can also become one more engine of overextension. One more reason employees feel watched. One more system that turns possibility into pressure. And one more way high performers talk themselves into exhaustion. That is why these boundaries matter. Do not let measurable output become the measure of your worth. Do not let AI erase your stopping cues. Do not confuse responsiveness with commitment. Do not let the company's anxiety become your nervous system. Because the real goal is not to reject AI. The goal is to use it without sacrificing your health, your clarity, and your sense of enough. That is the conversation more workplaces need to have. Because if companies want people to thrive in an AI-enabled future, they cannot just focus on how much more work technology makes possible. They also have to care about what makes work still human. And for you personally, that starts with boundaries, not optional boundaries, not nice-to-have boundaries, non-negotiable ones. If this episode resonated with you, make sure to subscribe to the Work Chat for more practical conversations on workplace communication, leadership, confidence, and navigating the modern world of work. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What's one boundary you think employees need most in an AI always-on environment? I'll see you in the next episode.